This is Comic Geek Speak, episode 1796, Comic Talk. Welcome to Comic Geek Speak. I'm Ian Levinstein.
I'm Adam Murdo.
I'm Shane Kelly.
And I'm Aquaman. I'm Chris Everly.
Aquaman, King of the Seven Seas, ruler of Atlantis.
Oh, man.
With his trusty steed Storm.
Never gets old, Chris. Never gets old.
Sorry, the Miko just landed in my hands, and I was just in.
No, please. It's all good. It's all good. And for those of you on video on the YouTube, I'm going old school with the shirt tonight with the old school CGS World Tour. And we are ready and willing and able for this year to be frickin' over. And we exit you with a joyous comic talk.
Hear, hear.
Oh, boy. Yes, indeed. And before we get started, as will be our most tradition for the next few episodes, and probably after that, I take a sip as well. We are indeed sponsored by you. That's right. Yes. Listeners like you at comicgeekspeak.com. Patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. And as of the recording of this episode on December 30th, we are exactly $2 over our initial goal. With 62 patrons posted, we are at $202 per month. So first off, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To everybody who has put in their cash to make this happen, because we wouldn't be doing this without you guys. And the response has been overwhelming so far for us to get this far along after, just announcing it essentially 2 episodes ago. You guys are amazing.
No, it really does our heart good to know that after all these years, we're still, really bringing entertaining distractions, so we say, to the lives of our listeners. So,
yeah, to say the least, Chris, to say the least. Yeah. And it certainly warms our hearts to be able to do this on a regular basis as well. So we are the distraction we all need right now.
By the way, Ian, I want to compliment you on your manly tug on your beer while I as an overgrown child, am having my Coca-Cola with Mexican sugar.
Hey, that is a darn good one. And for anybody who is watching, why, yes, that is indeed a Quarks bar.
I gotta get that glass, man. That is awesome.
This was freaking amazing. I found it on Amazon and added it to my wish list. And for a Secret Santa exchange, a friend of mine got it along with a Millennium Falcon bottle opener keychain. So
Shane, have you seen that glass before?
Not that glass, no. I have a Quarks bar keychain that I was gifted years ago when they had a Quarks bar in Vegas.
Oh,
at
nice.
the Star Trek experience, but that's years and years gone by now.
I am actually representing both, by the way, because my water glass tonight is a Last Jedi glass. So I've got I got both Star Trek and Star Wars covered.
Nice.
So yes, once again, thank you very much to everybody, and once again, patreon.com/comicgeekspeak for all your support. You guys are awesome, and as we head into 2021, you've got us covered. So how's everybody doing with the post Christmas food comas and what have you?
I'm just enjoying a respite from work, and whenever you're not working, you're doing things that you would rather be doing when you have free time.
That's right.
So it's been a delight.
Yep, ain't that the truth? We've been
and joyous recuperation.
That's right.
Especially for you, Murd. Especially for you.
Yes, I have indeed been sleeping in heavenly peace. So I know where Chris is coming from. It's been kind of a rough patch the last few weeks or months for me too, Chris.
Yep. Well, I've barely left the bed and just been relaxing and catching up on TV the last couple of days. So it's a good time to be doing that. It's freezing out, and there's a wealth of stuff available for viewing on streaming and elsewhere. So it's been a good couple of days for that.
God, Levinstein's reassuring. Man, just oh, the eyebrow raise. Oh, fantastic.
So the question is, should we just get the cat out of the bag with the main streaming bit that's been occurring? Although only 3 out of 4 of us have viewed it, so we'll make our initial comments brief and get back to the main topic at hand, as it were. But Wonder Woman 84 was indeed released on HBO Max for the U.S. masses this last week, and also available in theaters for theaters that are available, which are not that many.
Those of us here in the Commonwealth of PA, we have until this coming Monday or Tuesday, I think, until we'll be able to see it that way.
Yeah, all theaters in New York City are still closed. My nearest theater is Yonkers, which is about a 15-minute, 20-minute car ride, but it's still that still equals maybe a $25 Uber. And that putting on $13 for the movie ticket, not exactly the best idea right now, especially when I can just sit in front of my couch and watch it.
Yeah,
which is what I did in glorious 4K with HDR10 enabled, and it was a very pretty experience. I'll tell you that much. But before we go into spoilers, I guess we could just give our initial comments on this, and then just pretty much just give our grades and go from there. Shane, you want to start us off?
Yeah, I kind of found it a bit mediocre in some ways. My biggest beef was with some of the characterizations.
Fair enough. Chris, I know from pre-show that you ain't so happy.
I was deeply disappointed. I'll go into a little bit more when we're talking about it, but considering the majesty of the first film and how I think it almost solely on its own resuscitated the DC movie franchise universe, I felt, and I this sounds melodramatic because it's just a movie, and I usually don't feel this way about movies, but I felt very let down by it.
Okay. See, I don't think there's been this much of a divide on a movie since The Last Jedi. And I love The Last Jedi. I'm one of those people who absolutely adore that movie.
I like The Last Jedi too. Yep.
Right. But then there's a very adamant, yelling, screaming internet force that would, yell at you back for not liking it. Same to be said for, Batman v Superman and Justice League and stuff like that. And the internet is a place for screaming these days. It's not exactly a positive discourse in a lot of parts of the internet.
That's why, except for the show, I'm not on it.
Yes. And for that matter, the supergroup, which I've had to lock down a little bit over the last couple of days as we were starting to get there on some things. And frankly, we're a place of positivity, even when you don't like something.
Go moderator.
Well played, Murd.
Mighty Morphin moderator.
Oh boy. But nevertheless, I actually really liked Wonder Woman 84. It's far from a perfect movie. I'll give you that. It's about, I'd say it's probably about 20 minutes too long. They could have very easily cut out a lot of the fat and still made it a cohesive unit. But I think that if they were trying for a movie that feels like an 80s superhero movie, then they achieved that goal. I get some flares of Donna in there. I get some flares of old school superhero antics and even old school superhero comics for that matter. The plot's a little bit nonsensical at times, but guess what? We're comic fans. And I think we're kind of used to that. And that's why I think it was just enjoyable for me for the most part. Yeah, there's parts that didn't make sense. And yeah, there's parts that they could have even, rewrote a couple times to make a little bit better. But every time I see Gal Gadot, I'm immediately taken into the Wonder Woman experience. She certainly had that elegance going and that flair going yet again. The special effects, other than a moment here or there, were actually pretty good all the way through. Murd, this is not a spoiler to say there is no giant CGI finale fight in this one akin to the original, which was forced upon Patty Jenkins to begin with in the original and was my least favorite part of that movie.
Mine too.
Yes, this movie is a lot more story driven, I'd say. It's slower and methodical in that way, but frankly, I didn't mind. And that's probably the initial thoughts that I can give.
And I didn't either. I didn't need more fights, more battles, anything bigger. I thought the story behind it, the be careful what you wish for kind of theme made sense to me. I didn't like the way they portrayed Max Lord. And I'm not one to have a character be portrayed exactly how they are in the books or anything like that. I just thought, and I like Pasquale, gosh, what's his last name? I'm blanking.
Pedro Pascal.
Pedro Pascal. I like him in everything I've ever seen him in. And I think he acted well. I just don't think the character in this movie was well done.
Were you aware that this is technically the second Wonder Woman project that he was a part of?
No, not necessarily. No.
He was going to be a character on the failed Wonder Woman 2011 pilot.
I don't know if I knew that. I knew he was in Supergirl, but I didn't think he was in. I didn't know he was going to be in anything else.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, he was a regular on that. I forget the name of the character that he was going to play, but he was essentially Diana's assistant.
Huh.
The Adrian Palecki.
Yeah.
Failed 2011 pilot that they came really close to doing until the plug was pulled. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
That's my biggest beef. I mean, I have some problems with how the story unfolded and how they explain, say, Steve Trevor and such.
Yeah.
But I still enjoyed it well enough that I want to watch it again before it leaves HBO Max.
Yeah.
And see it. See how I feel about it. Watching it, knowing what's happening so I can enjoy some of the other things that happen in the movie.
Yeah.
It was okay. I was a little disappointed, but I didn't hate it.
Murd, we'll give you a thumbs up when we're done with spoilers, as I think we're about to get a little bit more spoilery here. So we'll go ahead and give you a like a clap or a heads up when we're good to head back.
Flag me down.
All right. Awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
And just a sec here. There we go.
All right. Awesome. Okay. So yeah, I think that I knew the minute that I started watching the movie, Shane, that you weren't going to like Maxwell Lord.
and again, it's not that I need him to be exactly like he's in the comics, and he's been various ways in the comics, but this just made no sense at all. I kind of get what they were going for. If they were going for flamboyant 80s kind of rich guy being controlling.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just did not sit well with me. I really, as much as I love father-son stuff, and some of those things that happened between him and his son were touching.
Yeah.
I just thought that was a wasted part. I didn't think it was necessary at all.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
It pulled some of Max Lord's story together in the end with how to pull him out of his neuroses.
Yeah.
But it seemed to happen too easily when his kid talking to him through the whole movie could have done that at any given point.
Right.
But they waited until the very end in the big battle for him to go, oh, okay, yeah, I'll go save my son and abandon everything I've just done to everybody.
I was
the way
glad
it was written didn't sit well.
I was glad we at least got Nosebleed because I was waiting the entire movie, and once we got there, I literally screamed Nosebleed.
Yep.
Shane, what you're talking about, I think captures my fundamental problem with the film, and that, and Ian made some good points. I mean, like you talk about like things that are Donner-esque, or you talk about certain aspects of camp and different things in other movies. I love all that when it's done well. I think in this film, and for me, it goes back to the screenplay. I thought the screenplay in this movie, frankly, was dreadful. Yeah. The opening scene was thrilling, and it set a great pace. And then for me, the movie just stopped. And look, I love nuance. I can watch a 3-hour epic that's just people talking. Like, I like, Bergman scenes from a marriage, for God's sake. I mean, it's not the length. It was the pacing. Like I watched with my wife, who's not a superhero like movie person, and she after a while she's like, and she just watched the first one, liked it. She said, "This is bad," and I said, "Yeah, And you know, and I agree that the actress is wonderful as Wonder Woman. She captures the essence of that character.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was served in this film because I think the screenplay was just very poor. I thought it was very flat. Um, the direction given to Pedro Pascal, I actually thought it was to the point of being laughable. Like it just, if they're trying to do like an '80s Donald Trump riff, okay, I kind of saw that, but it was just so goofy and over the top that like Gene Hackman did Goofy in Lex Luthor with Superman, but the way that movie was written, it worked.
Mm.
It didn't work here for me. I just wanted it to be over. Like,
it wasn't a wahaha funny either.
No, it was just I actually found it excruciating. Like the things with his kid, it was so rote, so like okay, we know what's going to happen here with this, and I just, and part of it is me in that the first Wonder Woman film, I remember when I went to see it, I was actually moved. Like, this is superb. Like, they really understand this character. And considering how lackluster a lot of the other DC films were up to that point, and we've talked about that many times in the past, I was really taken with it. And okay, I understand maybe they want to try something different with the second one, but I thought this movie really did a disservice to the tone that was established in the first film. Mm-hmm. And by the end of it, I was just like, I just don't care. Can this just end? Like, it was just, and we talked about this before we went on the air, that, and my wife has asked, she's like, okay, how does he use these powers and how is he getting this back from people? Like the writing I thought was really poor in this film. And Kristen Wiig, who I think is a wonderful actress, and the cheetah costume was great, by the way. Like, I thought that was one of the best parts of the whole movie, actually. Even that, okay, the showing lifting the weights and all that, like, and Ian has another good point. Like, yeah, it isn't it. They want to do the '80s. What I was expecting though was they were going to riff on the '80s in a way that was almost funny, like, you know, okay, he's got the fanny pack, but also kind of menacing in a way, and kind of getting into like some of the dark, excessive aspects of the '80s. Yeah, which there are many, yeah. And it seemed like they were kind of doing that, but it just got so goofy. And like suddenly the Russians are launching missiles and like there's chaos in the streets, and you got the guy like the preacher, of course, with the signs, and the world's coming to an end. And I was just like, I don't know, the script just felt so clunky to me. Yeah. And when I saw that Jeff Johns was the co-writer, I was actually, you know what, the last comment I'll make, because I'm saying too much already, but I always wonder when I see a movie like this, I wonder how much of it is so many hands are involved that they kind of lose a grasp of what they're trying to do. Right. Or how much of it is people, because we've all been in spots in our life where we're involved in something so heavily, we kind of lose sight of what the final product actually is. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. I don't know what happened here, but and again, maybe like a kid would love this film, like a little kid, and I can certainly appreciate that. From my perspective, I think it's, for me, it's one of the worst films DC's done yet.
See, I think part of my enjoyment of this movie may have been just how badly I wanted to see a freaking movie. And you know, especially a superhero movie, because you know, the last superhero movie that I saw before lockdown was Birds of Prey. You know, it happened to come out right before movie theaters closed here in New York City, and I got to see it. And this was, you know, 10 months later, sitting down and watching Wonder Woman 84 on my new TV, and the experience of it. I was just in the right mood. I think that does really accentuate it. Like, I was not expecting a lot from this. While I enjoyed Wonder Woman, the first Wonder Woman a lot, my expectations were only so high. And I think part of that is I haven't been thrilled with a lot of the other DC movies that have come out. Aquaman I thought was fine, but as I said on the show, the script was a ton of rocks. Like, I wasn't expecting a lot, but I still had fun with it. I still enjoyed it.
Aquaman, sure,
for what it was. Hate Man of Steel with a passion, but I still think
I have mixed feelings of Man of Steel.
First 20 minutes I'm fine with. After that, it's a disaster for me. Batman v Superman, don't even get me started. And Justice League, I just think is a muddled mess. Shazam, I enjoy a lot, and Wonder Woman, I enjoyed a lot, but I still did not like the end of it. And here, I was having enough fun for me to not get weighed down too much by the excess, because there was certainly excess in this script. It made no sense whatsoever that he was in the body of somebody else.
Oh,
Uh,
that is a bigger pet peeve of mine.
right. It's a comic book movie. So I'll give a comic book example. They could have easily pulled a Scott Lang from the Marvel Universe, where in the events of Young Avengers Children's Crusade, they save Scott Lang by pulling him from the moment before he was killed in the comics and brought him into the future at that point, and that's how Scott Lang's life is saved.
And I don't even need that. If Diana's making a wish, he just is there because she wished it.
Right.
And she had a hold of the stone when she did.
Sure.
But why have him? I love Chris Pine's performance and Gal Gadot's performance together. I love seeing them work together, but I don't know why we had to think or show a quantum leap of him looking in the mirror at who he really is inside of, yet he is still Steve Trevor and all that. Just have him appear as Steve Trevor, and that's it.
And Shane, I think you saying those words just explained exactly why they did it, because they were making an 80s movie and they wanted to pull a quantum leap.
It could be. I loved the part where he convinced her to relinquish her dream, and the way she did. And as she's running away crying, you hear him say, "I will always love you," and poof, off she went. That part was all great, but I didn't like that he was in somebody else's body supposedly, and I didn't like the portrayal of Max Lord, but everything else about it I enjoyed well enough that I was entertained.
The invisible jet, oh my god,
I like that they have it in there, but I didn't like how they did it. It made no sense for her to rub her hands and go, "Boom, okay, it's invisible."
See, I like the general idea of it, to at least give an explanation of it, but yes, it was a little hokey.
Let me say this in defense of some of the points you're making about him being in another body. Yeah. And I'm speaking as someone who really doesn't like this movie overall, but I think they may have done that from a narrative perspective, and who knows, but I'm just, talking my butt here, but to kind of set up that ending scene where she meets the actual man whose body was being used.
Yeah.
It kind of reaffirms her sense of hope, because she sees a little bit of Steve Trevor kind of in him. Mm-hmm. That may have been an element. And the other point I make, because you remind me of something else, Shane, is that my favorite part of the first Wonder Woman movie was the chemistry between Chris Pine.
Oh, absolutely.
It was wonderful.
Right.
And I think the writing did a disservice to that chemistry in this film. So that's where I was really struggling with it.
The other thing that I was going to say is Kristen Wiig has that Michelle Pfeiffer Catwoman energy in this movie.
Yeah.
That was clearly like their main inspiration for the character, because like it seemed to be where they were going. And again, could have been a little bit more polished, and they could have, made it make more sense. But it does at least make more sense that, because of the monkey's paw aspect of the wishing here, she got to be, quote unquote, everything Diana is, except for Diana's morality. And the character itself, it's established that the character, was a giving person, with like what she would do for the homeless guy at the beginning. Mm-hmm. And she lost that over time, because that's what the wish took away from her.
Sure.
And I did appreciate that aspect of it.
Yeah. And that's where the be careful what you wish for theme throughout the whole thing made sense to me.
Right. Exactly. And I think that definitely special effects wise, this movie also just worked better for me. Except for like one or two moments with the lasso that looked a little bit loose, but then again, so did Black Panther. Like it's very hard to have those sort of jumps and make it work, fluid the way it did. But I like the vibrancy of Wonder Woman's suit in this. Adding those extra touches of color made it feel actually a lot more modern, which made sense with the 80s motif in general. Almost Peresian in the presentation of the costume. But yes, I wish there was more Amazons, and I wish they tightened the script a bit. Other than that, I had a good time. You know, and mind you, so did Martha. Like when we're sitting there, because I mean, I know that's your test as well, Chris. Like, did Keiko enjoy it? But like Martha's nowhere near into you know, she likes superheroes and she likes superhero movies, but she's not like into it the way I am. And she came out of it saying she had a good time. So you know, that was a win for me.
I absolutely loved the extra credit scene.
Yes, that was golden. And
Yep, absolutely.
I hope that means that we're going to get more Linda Carter, you know.
I didn't even know there was an extra credit scene because I couldn't wait to turn it off.
Oh, you have to watch the extra
watch
credit
it.
scene.
It's a mid credit scene.
Yeah. It's so worth it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it explains something that happened in the movie, and it may very well set us up for something that might potentially be the case in Wonder Woman 3. So
okay.
And even if it doesn't, it brought in what I love when they brought in the previous actress to be in the current version in some capacity.
Yeah.
I absolutely love that.
Yeah, same here. So you know, I mean, like overall, it's nice to get a movie. It's nice to get a superhero movie. I certainly hope that next year, once we start getting Black Widow and what have you, and we're back into the swing of things, and hell, even Suicide Squad, which I am actually looking forward to with the James Gunn and everything. And the Batman and all this other stuff that we have upcoming, Spider-Man, Doctor Strange. It's going to be an interesting 2021 if things remain where they are in the schedule. Yeah. But you know, this was an entertaining romp for me. It was enough to suit me, but it's not perfect in any single way. Yep. All right, let's give our freaking swears, and then we can give Murd the thumbs up that he can rejoin.
I give it a 3.
Chris?
Barely a 2.
Oof. It's a solid 3 for me. Maybe even a 3.25. I mean, again, it was enough to make me want to go back and maybe watch some more. And it's not my least favorite DC Universe movie by far. So
No, it's not that at all.
Solid middle of the stack for me. So that's the way I'll go. And I give Murd the thumbs up. Let's see if he sees it. Hello. Hey, he's back with us.
That's my whole face.
Excellent.
Instead of just Kilroy.
So meanwhile, now it's time to spoil things. Okay, just kidding.
It was kind of fun watching you guys gesticulating and trying to get what comments were going along with those hand gestures. Shane in particular.
Yes. Well, Murd, when you do get a chance to see the movie, we will definitely get your thoughts on a future comic talk and get your own frickin' swears on it. So
it would be my pleasure to provide them. But for the moment, based on what I've heard from you guys in your initial remarks and the few things I've seen online, I think the problem with Wonder Woman might have less to do with the movie itself than it has to do with the structuring of expectations. Because the first Wonder Woman movie, set the bar pretty high. Yeah. And I think the reason that the first Wonder Woman set the bar that high is because the bar had been set previously so low by the other DC Universe movies.
Oh, that's true.
Kind of immediately set the Wonder Woman movie on a pedestal because it was so much better than everyone thought it was going to be. And they expected this movie to be more of the same. And now that what I'm hearing is that people aren't hating it so much as they are resenting it for not being as good as the viewers thought it should be.
Yeah.
So,
and me personally, I think I would have been more disappointed if I'd have gone to the theater to see it versus walking downstairs to the couch.
Oh yeah, no. If this had been my first movie back at the theater, I may have had a slightly different opinion of it. I'm not entirely sure because sometimes seeing it with a group actually adds to that experience versus detracting from it. But, who knows?
Yeah.
I did get a chance to see the other movie that came out that same day on Disney Plus, and I'll just give general thoughts on this because I know that the group hasn't seen it. I did see Soul, the new Pixar film. And this was written and directed by Pete Docter, the same guy who did Up and Inside Out for Pixar. The way I put it on Facebook is the way that I'm describing it to people is that this is part of a trilogy on the human condition. Up is all about getting older. Inside Out is all about emotions and how to handle them. And Soul is about literally what it takes to be human and the soul that resides within it. And I think the acting is superb in this. Jamie Foxx plays our main character. He's a jazz musician, and he winds up, through the series of events in the world of the souls, and then tries to make his way back. Tina Fey plays a soul trying to find a body at one point in this, and then the movie itself goes forward. We've got some great voice acting talent in this as well, like Richard Iodide from the It Crowd plays a character in this. Graham Norton plays an important character in this as well, and I was not expecting to find his voice. Felicia Rashad plays the main character's mother, and does an extraordinary job of that. And really, this is one of the most adult Pixar movies that have come out so far. I'm not quite sure how many kids are going to actually wind up enjoying this. There's some funny in there, but it's a lot of adult humor, to the point where like there's even some like cutaway gags that are almost like 30 Rock or Family Guy-esque in their execution. And just depends on the kid whether or not they're going to find enjoyment in that. I think it's probably more for a 11 or 12 crowd versus say like an 8 or 9-year-old crowd. But certainly well worth watching.
I look forward to it.
Absolutely gorgeously animated, and may very well be in my top 10 Pixar movies. I have a top 10 because there are that many good Pixar movies. But it's really, really well executed. So I enjoyed it a lot.
I look forward to seeing it. I loved Up, but I'll tell you what, we took the kids when they were probably a little too young for the opening scene of that. And when you see what's happening in the beginning of Up, my wife and I are looking at each other over top the two kids going, I don't know if we should have brought them to this because of what it was dealing with at that point. Yeah. We saw Inside Out, and I was kind of mediocre with that. It was fine, but I'm looking forward to seeing this.
Yeah. My favorite line in Inside Out is, broccoli on pizza, leave it to San Francisco to ruin pizza. There is also a new Up short that's available on Disney Plus, Shane. Featuring Doug the dog.
Oh, I missed that.
Yeah, the old man gets puppies, and Doug has to deal with them. It's absolutely adorable.
Hi there, my name is Doug. My master made this collar for me, so I could squirrel. Hi there. Absolutely love Doug.
Oh yeah, he's the best. He's absolutely the best. But yeah, it was a good series of stuff to watch over the Christmas break. It definitely added to my relaxing experience.
Nice.
Let's take this opportunity to once again note the majesty of Shane's background. Are those all the G.I. Joe figures behind you, by the way?
Yeah, yep. There's some of them in their package. Yeah, I've got a Cobra Commander and a Cobra Trooper on my desk. Oh. And a Snake Eyes and Scarlet on a stand.
Now these are all at Target, right, Shane?
Well, not the Cobra. Well, yeah, so the Cobra Trooper is a Cobra Island exclusive. There's another version of him coming out that's more generic, and that's mass market. Cobra Commander, Scarlet, Snake Eyes, Gung Ho, Destro, they're all mass market ones. There's a Arctic Storm Shadow that is an Amazon exclusive. There's a version of Roadblock, Beachhead, that Cobra Trooper that I have, and the Baroness on a bike. They're all Target Cobra Island exclusives, and their release was an absolute disaster. They were street dated, but people were finding them before they were street dated. Some stores sold them, some stores didn't. No, people who pre-ordered them had their orders canceled. I lucked out and found them over time, and had a friend who's a fellow G.I. Joe fan helped get one of the Baronesses for me, so that was great. There's another round of these Cobra Island exclusives coming out. It's going to be Firefly and Viper. They're due out January 1st. I was able to pre-order both of them, but to me that doesn't mean anything because too many times Target just cancels your pre-orders anyway. However, yesterday I got a notification that my Fireflies have shipped, which is astounding to me. They'll come mid next week, so that's kind of cool. Nothing on the Viper yet, but we'll see. And then there's down the road, there's a Zartan and the regular Cobra Trooper. And then even further down the road in June of next year is Flint and Lady J.
Now, most importantly, does Zartan come with mask and does his skin color change?
His skin color does not change, but he does come with a mask. In fact, the Zartan figure looks so close to the 80s release 3 3/4 figure. He looks phenomenal. I'm really impressed. I can't wait to get that figure. And,
one of the most delightfully ridiculous concepts.
Oh yeah, yeah, but it works. And he comes. I think the new classified figure comes with a pistol very similar to what he had in the 3 3/4 line back in the 80s. He's got the backpack that kind of looks the same with the same kind of mask and just a little beard here that you can pop inside the hood. In this classified figure, the hood comes off. So it's an actual material kind of hood that has him just be a bald head with this black mask painted on, I guess. But it looks really good. And it looks comparable to what his release was in the 80s.
Well, let me just take this opportunity to once again say with great melodrama, Zartan. Okay, good, thanks.
Jane, please tell me that when the Viper ships, it ships with, I am the Viper and I am coming.
Oh,
Wipe your windows.
Hasbro has a lot of G.I. Joe episodes. There's like 80 of them on their YouTube channel. That is not one of them. And I wanted that to be one of them. They get to a certain point and then they stop and the rest of them haven't been on. And then they skip all the way to Serpentor. And that's fine. Then it restarts with the mass device. But yeah, I really wanted the Vindo Viper one.
One of my favorite episodes of an animated series of all time. Just so stupid and brilliant.
Yep.
Murd, what you been up to since the last comic talk? Have you had a chance to read anything? That's the most important question.
Yes, I had. Knowing in part that I was going to be participating in this episode, but I did get a lot of holiday reading done on and around Christmas Day, and so I may submit to the approval of the board. Which is,
oh wow!
Reverse or not, but yeah, this is something that was a couple of things here that were released last Christmas, but I didn't get a chance to actually read until this Christmas. So this came out in a new edition from Titan Books last year. I assumed at that time it was new, but it turns out that the first edition was published in 1998 through Avon. It's called Santa: My Life and Times, an illustrated autobiography. As told to, i.e. written by Jared and Martin Green with illustrations by Bill Sienkiewicz.
Oh, wow.
That's his work right there on the front cover. So that's what you have to expect from the interior. Jared Green is a professor of English literature, and it kind of shows through in the text here. It's as the title implies, it's the life and times of Santa Claus. It's Dr. Green's take on how on an origin story for Santa Claus. It seems it's pretty similar to L. Frank Baum's Life and Adventures of Santa Claus, and I'm sure that Jared Green has read that and quite a few other Oz books in his time, plus a good helping of Tolkien, because they both seem to be like stylistic influences. Throughout the text, there's little snippets of poetry and song woven in, as Tolkien, philologist and folklorist that he was, loved to do. And it's just a tale of how Santa Claus went from being the adopted son of a kindly woodcarver somewhere in Northern Europe to being the immortal bringer of cheer and holiday will to children all over the world. So that there is kind of a hero's journey aspect to this. He's a foundling. So that's a pretty common element of heroic origins that is chosen to be incorporated here. And it turns out that in this version of his life, Santa Claus is the last surviving member of an exogamous enclave of elves that interbred with humanity at some point. So that's why it's such a rapport with the little guys. He's a distant cousin of theirs. So it tells the story of how he gets his flying reindeer and how he gets his workshop and how he takes on the whole staff of workshop elves, whom, as I said, are distant relatives of his. And then there's kind of a magical explanation for everything. The author tends to go back to the same Deus Ex Machina well fairly often, in that whenever Santa Claus encounters a need in his Christmas mission, he hears the distant panpiping of the Allfather of the Elves, the Elder, who is this wizardly sprite who just kind of shows up with a wink and a tootle on his pipes, and suddenly, bam, Santa's reindeer can fly. Bam, an icy tornado appears to whirl him down the chimney of a household, and he is able to use that magic for the rest of his run. Yeah, it's more character and mood oriented than it is story oriented, but it answers a lot of the standard questions. Provides little backstory explanations for a lot of the aspects of the Santa Claus myth, and it's written on a level that's going to be pleasing and enjoyable for all ages.
Oh, wonderful!
It's my professional opinion that this is a worthy addition to everyone's Yuletide. Everyone who celebrates Christmas should have this in their seasonal library.
Sounds like Santa from the House of Claus.
A little bit, and there is a little bit of it. There's even an antagonist. The House of the Hobgoblins. Yes, and their leader Hoarfrost, who bears the striking resemblance in appearance and actions to the Gnome King from the Oz books. So again, this is very much written to my taste, and Mr. Sienkiewicz's illustrations. I don't know how well you guys are going to be able to see this, but
oh wow! Oh, that is completely gorgeous from just the small amount that I could see there. That's, oh my god.
Yep, I think he was working in watercolor to do this, and he's definitely using a softer, warmer, less jagged and abstracted style than what he would what you'd see in his superhero work, for example. I was surprised at how much it reminded me of the work of John R. Neal, the illustrator for the overwhelming majority of the Oz books, and who even wrote a few of those Oz books himself. So I don't know whether Mr. Sienkiewicz was deliberately drawing on Neal's work or if it's just a happy accident, but either way, I was, as an Oz fan and a lover of the legend of Santa Claus in all its many forms, I was very pleased with what I both read and saw in this story.
Very cool.
And another little Christmas treat that I read on the day after Christmas, I think. It's something that was also published last year from Scout Comics, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, The Island of Misfit Toys. And this is an adventure of some of the beloved Misfit Toy characters. It's what they were doing kind of in the middle of the Rudolph special, between when Rudolph leaves the Island of Misfit Toys and sets off on his own, and the conclusion of the special when Rudolph brings Santa's sleigh back to the island to pick up Misfit Toys. In the meantime, that same storm that nearly ground Santa's sleigh blows Charlie in the box on a little ice floe away from the island, and a rescue mission must be mounted. Yukon Cornelius and the Bumble, fresh from falling off that cliff and disappearing. Apparently where they bounced to was over to the Island of Misfit Toys, where they joined in the rescue mission. And it's written by Brendan Deneen with art by George Cambadeus. And the artwork in particular, it captures the spirit of the special pretty well, I think. I'm just kind of opening to random pages here and holding them up to the camera in hopes you guys are going to get a sense of what this looks like. Yeah, our main characters here are the cowboy who rides an ostrich, who is my favorite misfit, next to, of course, the water pistol that shoots jelly. Badly, I wanted one of those as well. And also Charlie in the box, of course, the choo-choo with square wheels on his caboose, and the dolly. And the writer, Brendan Deneen, gives us a little bit of a backstory for both the dolly and the cowboy who rides an ostrich. And in general, I was happier with this on the level of artwork than I was on the level of story, and particularly characterization and dialogue. Brendan Deneen tries, but I don't think he quite captures the wit and warmth of Romeo Muller's original teleplay. And I do think he gets a couple of the characters somewhat wrong. The Misfit Toys are obviously just blank slates that he can write on, but Yukon Cornelius, a lot of the things that come out of his mouth just don't sound like Yukon dialogue to me. And he also seems a little bit uncomfortable with the whole concept of misfit, and it goes a little too far out of his way to try to dispel whatever pejorative connotations may attach itself to the concept of misfitness. So as an end result, it comes off a little bit more preachy than just good holiday fun. But it's something that I'm happy to own, though. There aren't too many Rudolph comics out there these days.
You know what? Because every year I watch a special, and of course I adore it. What always strikes me jarringly every year, and I mean this in the best possible way because it's just fun, is what a complete dick Santa Claus is in the special. And I mean, he's like from the beginning almost to the end, he is a surly, just obstinate bigot, and I just howl with laughter every year because he's just like the way he dismisses Rudolph. I mean, you gotta love stuff made in 1964, man. Like it's what a delight.
Yeah, he is extremely judgmental, but at least he's not being a dick just to Rudolph.
No, he's to everybody. No.
I rewatched. Speaking of portrayals of Santa, we rewatched the Santa Claus and the Santa Claus 2. The over Christmas break, and those are actually pretty decent. I mean, I'm not the biggest Tim Allen guy, but he does do a good job of creating his own sense of Santa origins and that, and the whole like Green Lantern-esque passing of the torch.
Yep.
I do appreciate with the Santa moniker and those.
The third one's a little harder to get through, but I do like the first two.
Yeah, I've heard the same about the third as well. But yeah,
it's got Martin Short.
That's what I like. That's a huge part of what I like about it is Martin Short's.
Yep. And the other thing I was going to say is for anybody looking for a little bit more of Christmas fun who might have missed it on the feed, Murd had his annual reading on Christmas of Frosty the Snowman this time around.
Straight from 1950, and that's. I thought originally, I think I told you last week off mic, Ian, that I thought it was the first printing, that little golden book that I was using. It did used to belong to my mother, but it was actually a later printing from 1958 when my mother was 9 years old. But still, same text.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thank you for doing that, Murd. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure entirely, guys. It warmed my heart as much as it did anyone else's to bring that rendition of Frosty's first prose tale to our listeners.
Yep.
And I've got something pretty big planned for next year.
Ooh.
Oh, wow.
Right. Anticipation.
Oh, boy. Is it next Christmas yet?
Murd Unleashed. I love it. Oh.
Well, I do have a little bit of a further gift for everybody.
Oh.
Play it, man. It's the gift that keeps on giving.
Yes, it is. As much air harp as I could get, I am A-okay with that. And listeners, it is once again time for Muddle the Murd here on these airways. And Murd has more to tell you.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Ian. Yes, Muddle the Murd is our trivia contest segment here on Comic Geek Speak. And if you'd like to play along at home, all you have to do is submit 3 comic book related trivia questions to comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. Please put Muddle the Murd in the subject line. Make sure that there's 1 Marvel question, 1 DC question, and 1 question about some other publisher's comics. Also, they need to break down chronologically to 1 question about comics published prior to 1970, 1 about comics published between 1970 and 2000 inclusive, and 1 about comics published post-2000. Send in 3 questions that meet those criteria. Don't forget to include the answers when you do. And if I fail to answer any of them correctly, if I get not a single one correct, then you will have muddled the Murd. And then the gift that keeps on giving will have given you a fabulous prize.
Yes, indeed. And that prize remains fabulous.
Mm-hmm. Yes, because we are still in partnership with our friends over at the Collection Drawer Company, maker of the Drawer Box comic storage system, celebrating 15 years of making collections accessible through their miracle drawer box product. And if you succeed in muddling the Murd, you have a chance to win. There's still 2 such chances left. You have a chance to win a drawer box prize pack consisting of 5 drawer boxes, your choice of short or long size, plus 5 box sort upright dividers, which help to keep your comics separated and in an upright, stable condition while being yanked in and out in those drawer boxes, and also a 3 packs of box locks stabilizing anchors, which help to keep your drawer boxes stable when you stack them vertically. Yes, so if you're thinking of getting started on housing your collection in drawer boxes, muddling the Murd would be a good thing for you to try to do right now.
Yes, indeed. And keep those submissions coming. We do have a bunch in the queue right now, but we will gladly get to your submissions as they come in. 2 further guidelines. Please make sure they are about the issue itself, not the back cover with a copy of a Back to the Future advertisement or anything like that. And please make sure it is not too specific, as if the question is about the color of Wolverine's boots in Uncanny X-Men number 297, we will not be covering that. I'm sorry.
Yep, and that is at the discretion of the panel of judges.
Yes, indeed. I try to make that different every time I say it. So I'm gonna eventually gonna run out of things to say, but for now I'm still managing it.
Yeah. I feel like I've run out of different ways to phrase my introductory spiel a long time ago. So
we all get there eventually. Well, this week's attempt is by Mr. Steve Furnett. I believe that's how you pronounce it. If not, it's Furnett, but it's one way or the other. And he has this little preamble to say before we get to the questions. Hi, all. Here is my submission for a Muddle the Murd segment. I've been a listener to the podcast since episode number 1379, Spotlight on the X-Men in the Bronze Age, and have rarely missed an episode since. That is an excellent episode to start with. Thanks for all the years of and commutes of entertainment.
Okay. Thank you for listening, sir.
Yes, indeed.
You're here.
Yep. And we begin with Marvel pre-1970. This character appeared on the cover of Fantastic Four #1, Daredevil #1, and The Amazing Spider-Man #1.
All right, there's a trying to summon to mind what the cover to Daredevil #1 looked like. I mean, okay, so everybody in the Fantastic Four #1 consisted of the Fantastic Four themselves and the monster Giganto, I think, one of the Mole Mans mutates. Amazing Spider-Man #1 had Spidey plus the Fantastic Four. So just a question of which one of the members of the Fantastic Four is on the cover of Daredevil #1. I'm going to go with the Human Torch.
Well, you are right, because the answer is literally any member of the Fantastic Four.
Oh, okay. Give me a lot of latitude there. Thank you for that, Steve.
Yeah, Daredevil 1 was classic Stan Lee shilling in that he was showing all the great stuff we've introduced so far, and now Daredevil. So, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like, none of these characters are going to appear in the issue itself, but hey, we print these.
Check them out.
Fantastic. All right, moving over to DC, 1970 to 2000. In issue number 10 of DC Superstars, Strange Sports Stories, 1976, the DC heroes take on the DC villains in a game of baseball. Who plays first base for the heroes, and who plays first base for the villains?
Oh, my Lord. People love to ask me strange sports stories questions. It's not hard to see why. I don't know the answers to any of them. All right, so let's see. I'm trying to think of somebody who's maybe who's got good arm strength, but not that strong a runner. That's typically who gets put at the first base position. Okay, for the villain team, I'm gonna go with Gorilla Grodd. And for the heroes, it's probably gonna be easier than I'm making it, but well, heck with it. Superman.
So for the heroes, it was Plastic Man.
Okay, my second guess would have been Metamorpho, so that at least is closer.
And for the villains, Felix Faust.
Really?
Wow.
So they didn't at all go with your reasoning, even though it made perfect sense.
Hey, it's comics.
Yep. As a bonus question, he asked who was the home plate umpire.
The Phantom Stranger.
Uncle Sam.
Oh, all right.
And last but not least, Independent Post 2000. And this question is about our favorite uncle's book, Atomica, a 2005 release by Mercury Comics, takes place in what Russian city?
All right. Now I know I've read most of the issues that came out through Mercury Comics of this, but yeah, what city? I don't know. It's tempting to just go ahead and say Moscow because it's just like it's the biggest and most iconic of the Russian cities, capital and all that. I'm thinking it might be one of the Grads.
You know, you should have just stuck with your initial thinking there, sir.
Moscow.
Why, sure, you got it right. It's fine. You already won. The answer is indeed Moscow. And he asks the bonus question, who penciled the story, but we all know that already.
Sal Abinanti.
Damn Skippy. Yep. And Steve does say, thanks again, guys. If I should be so lucky as to muddle the Murd, please pass the reward on to the next muddler. So he was being super generous with this question and these questions in the first place. And thank you very much for playing the game, Steve.
Very magnanimous. Thank you, sir.
Highly, very much in the Christmas spirit, yes. And then thank you for listening for such a long time, Steve.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to go along with you on all those commutes.
Absolutely. Yep. Very much how I listened for years as well. So there we go. Before we move on to anything else, gentlemen, there was an announcement out of DC, which will be probably in this next previews, as to the beginning of the quote unquote new era of DC Comics after Future State. They announced Infinite Frontier #0, and it's going to be released. I'm not exactly sure what day it's going to be. March 2nd of 2021. It will be available for the absolutely steep price of $6, but that seems to be where comics are going right now. It looks like it's going to be essentially the same as the beginning of the previous era, where we get a whole bunch of stories leading into what's going to be upcoming.
Like the DC Rebirth one shot?
Exactly, just like the Rebirth one shot. We do get stories in here by Joshua Williams and Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV with art by John Timms. Brian Bendis and Dave Marquez have a story in it. Becky Cloonan and Michael W. Conrad with Aletha Martinez. Jeff Johns and Todd Nauck. That makes me a happy camper. Have a story in this one. Josh Williamson and Alex Maleev. James Tynion IV and Jorge Jimenez. And last but certainly not least, Philip Kennedy Johnson and the one and only Jamal Igle. And he gets to draw freaking Superman.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Can't wait.
Yep. So and Jeff Johns, the Jeff Johns Todd Knox story is going to be a Stargirl story.
Oh, wow.
Wonderful.
Good.
Perfect.
Yep. So interesting stuff coming out of DC. I'm looking forward to seeing everything that's going to be. Bendis and Marquez are doing the Justice League story in it. There's a Titans Tower orientation day. And there's also the spinoff of Wonder Woman Future State, and we get to see more of Yara Flor in the DC universe. So gonna be very interesting, and including a Joker story by James Tynion IV and Gilliam March, as I believe the Joker is going to have an ongoing series at one point in the near future.
Well, nothing over top of his wacky slip series.
I actually have that in hardcover omnibus formats.
Nice.
That much.
Yep. So it'll be an interesting couple of months over at DC, to say the least.
Speaking of DC, and I wanted to just mention briefly that I did sit down and read the entire Doomsday Clock, in a couple sittings, because like some of us, I just gave up on the sporadic release. I didn't feel I was thoroughly getting the essence of the story by reading it, in these spurts as a monthly book, or it wasn't even monthly, eventually came out. So I just stopped and I waited for the trade. And again, I don't want to spoil too much because I know some of us haven't read it yet, but I must say, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it got more and more engaging as the story went along, actually. But the highlight for me, Gary Frank's art is beyond breathtaking in this story. I've always enjoyed his work. He's just at the top of his game in this book. It is stunning work. For that alone, I think this story is worth checking out. What I also understand, we talked about this before as we're kind of anticipating what the story might mean. Actually, this was first teased a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. So
going all the way back to the aforementioned DC Rebirth.
Right. So, and as Murd and I were just talking about off the air, the book does address the concept of the multiverse and what the role of Dr. Manhattan is in all of that. And I'm looking forward to Murd's reaction when he reads it, because basically just taking a look at the entire breadth of the multiverse and the place of the concept of Superman in all of those different universes, and the impact of Superman's presence has on the perspective of Dr. Manhattan, and he, meddles with the different continuity. They're kind of using him as an explanation for a lot of the different things that happened. So you can look at that different ways, and you can either kind of like roll your eyes at it or just kind of go with it. But if you enjoy the characters, if you're interested in the multiverse concept, which looking forward to Murd's opinion. And as he and I mentioned off the air, they introduced something called the metaverse in this now as well. It's definitely worth checking out. And again, the Gary Frank art is really stunning. So I recommend it.
See, part of me wonders, though, like with things like this metaverse that you mentioned, like how much of it is going to wind up being like essentially like hyper time, where it's, not mentioned again after being.
It may never get mentioned again.
And I really liked hyper time when it first was announced, but that went by the wayside.
Because Ian, you just announced before they're doing a whole new concept, right?
They are. Yeah. And I don't know how much of that is going to wind up making its way over. And it's so like at this point, DC's entire frame of everything, even when it comes to the movies, is we're just going to write stories, which is fine. It's hard when they're like literally putting down, this is what our future is going to be. And then the next story comes out and be like, nah, this is what our future is going to be. It's a bit murky, to say the least, and herky jerky.
And I think for old hands like ourselves, who are often very emotionally invested in different continuities and concepts, I think if you just want to enjoy, as Ian said, the stories, you kind of have to start to not let that stuff go, but kind of just put it in a perspective, because too many decades now have passed, and too many creators have come and gone, and everything's just unraveling. And it's never going to be like 1985 when continuity was very tight in both the companies, because there's only been a couple decades since a lot of these characters really had emerged. Well, at least a lot of the Marvel ones, for example. So I think you just kind of roll with it and take it with a grain of salt if you want to keep reading, and maybe just be more selective in what you're reading too.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah. And I mean, the line from Mystery Science Theater 3000's theme song comes to my head, repeat to yourself, it's just a show, you should really just relax. And that's kind of how I feel about comics these days. It's like, read what you want to read. If it goes in continuity, great. If not, relax. It's just a story.
But one of the things I'll say, and I agree with 100%, Ian, is that if you love Superman and like the concept of Superman, what Superman is supposed to represent, like what Superman means, not just to readers in our world, but into the characters in the universe, their universe, I think this is a story you should check out, because that's really what Johns is exploring. I think he's kind of contrasting the significance of Superman, what Superman represents, to what the world of Watchmen maybe never had or has lost. So it's, and again, I don't want to go too much because I don't want to spoil, but it's interesting. And I think the story, because the first couple issues when we were reading it in floppy, didn't really grab me that much. Yeah. But as I read it in trade, especially on the latter issues, I was really getting engaged in it. So I think there's something there for a lot of people to check out.
Well, and some of that with those early issues, especially, there was such time in between every issue, and it only got worse that I was losing what I almost had to go back and reread everything up to that point just to kind of stay focused on what was being presented now. And then I gave up and just read it as it came out, and I really didn't enjoy it as much as I hoped I would. So maybe sitting down and really reading it at one shot.
Yep. Yeah, I look forward to reading it in one shot, because exactly what you just said, I lost the narrative after a while, and I need to get it back by reading all of Doomsday Clock, just getting it done and seeing what I feel about it, because it's a long read, and when you take a long time in between a long read, you completely forget what the heck you were reading. So it is what it is.
That's one new thing I've read lately.
Well, Chris, I started reading Black Hammer. I did it. I'm about 2.5 issues into volume 1 of Black Hammer Secret Origins so far. And
Young man, you got pep.
oh my God. It is everything that you said it is.
I'm glad to hear that.
Anyone who's a fan of superheroes is going to wind up enjoying this for what it is. And really, I'm just intrigued by where they are and how they get out of it and the scenario of it all. Because, I mean, in these first couple of issues, the team of Black Hammer are stuck in this town. Almost, I mean, I'd say description-wise, I almost think of like Eureka or something like that, where the town is the most important part and getting out of it is not always the easiest thing. Once Upon a Time also comes to mind as well with that. But with the characters that are introduced, like Golden Gale, which is such an excellent send-off of Shazam, with the word of what is it, Zaphram, that she winds up screaming. I love the idea that that this, you know, Captain Marvel character essentially is stuck in the reverse of what we know about our Captain Marvel, which is, you know, it's a young person that when they scream Shazam, they become an old person, while this Golden Girl is essentially the opposite, that when she screams Zaphram, she turns into a little girl. And what happens when you get stuck in a pocket universe where your magic word doesn't work? You're stuck as a 9-year-old girl when you're, 55. That's a awesome concept to me. It reminds me a lot of Monster Girl and Invincible. And I can't wait to see where this is going. And I'm in for the long haul. This is 100% what you were, leading it to be, Chris. I'm really, really into it.
Ian, I'm really glad to hear that. And all I'll say is you're not going to be disappointed. So it's one of the, it is, I mean, like we said, it is the best superhero comic out, I think, when it comes to the concept and deconstruction of the concept and so forth. And also when you're done, check out some of the miniseries too, because the overall universe is really strong and they're definitely out very nicely. As we mentioned in the last previews, they're coming with an anthology series with different writers, taking a stab at the universe. That I'm sure that's going to be a delight as well.
Nice.
So.
Yep.
Starting with Cat Knows World of all people.
Yep.
Indeed. Yep. And the other book that I got a chance to read, I did read issue 1 of the Juggernaut miniseries that Fabian Nicieza and Tom Rainey are putting out over at Marvel. And I had to read Uncanny X-Men number 21 to find out how the heck this got set up. So mind you, the most recent Uncanny X-Men number 21, not the original.
I thought you meant going back to Silver Age.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, was the original.
I know. I thought that for a moment too, until I actually went back and I'm like, okay, it's essentially the X-Men series before Hickman's X-Men.
Okay.
There was an issue of that where Magic takes the Crimson Band of Sidorak off of Juggernaut and traps him in limbo. And we're then led to like multiple flashbacks of Juggernaut stuck in limbo without his powers, while at the same time also get to see him working with damage control to clear buildings for demolition.
Damage control.
And that's the general setup of this. He meets not a mutant, but a powered individual by the name of D-Cell that actually has the ability to de-accelerate people. So like basically takes away their kinetic energy and slows them down. And this is a character concept that we're introduced to in this. And really the whole basic premise is, where Juggernaut has been and where he's going to wind up. And the issue ends with a tease of Hulk versus Juggernaut in issue 2. And I am very intrigued with where this is going. Nicieza always puts out a good book. And really, I'm looking forward to seeing where this miniseries is going to go from here. So very,
Tom
very
Rainey's
impressed. Oh, he's fantastic, and he's putting out solid work here. I love his redesign of the Juggernaut costume as well. I actually kind of hope it sticks. It's really well done. So,
All right.
Yay, reading things.
Yes.
Shane, you get a chance to read anything?
No, I got for Christmas. I got the Ready Player 2 book that I want to start diving into. Comics, I'm kind of waiting for my next shipment, and we'll go from there.
Very good.
All right.
Good. Yep. All right. I hate to leave Murd in the spoiler zone again, but I feel like we would be leaving our listeners in the lurch if we didn't discuss Mandalorian Season 2 and
they've been clamoring for it
and where it winds up. So Murd, you're back in the hot box. If you can go ahead and put your headphones on.
Back into the cone of seclusion or whatever it's
called. Or the cone of silence.
Exactly. I think that this season wound up. I love Murd slinking down like that. That just
it's just like Kilroy.
I loved Season 2 of The Mandalorian, and for me, it is everything I love about Star Wars in one package. It's just excellent.
I agree with that. I liked the first episode a lot because it was something new. When it got to the second episode, I was a little bit concerned that we were going to get a Freak of the Week kind of thing going on, and I was really hoping that's not where we were going. While the second episode was good, I didn't think it did anything to move the story along. Once we got to the third and beyond, we just kept going and kept running at high speed. I loved absolutely everything about this season overall.
What's also great about it is, and because I was concerned they might do this, like they would treat like the main characters and like the main concepts, like I kind of put them in like in a taboo area where we would never see them, which would always bother me, because how can you ignore stuff that's obviously happening around these characters? And they didn't do that in this season. They acknowledge that there's still remnants of the Empire out there. They acknowledge that the New Republic is struggling to trying to reach out into the outer rim, of the known universe and so forth. They're bringing all these threads. I'm sorry, Shane. What's the name of the Jedi that Rosario Dawson played again?
Ahsoka Tano.
They brought her into it. I mean, Boba Fett, and then of course, the final episode.
Oh my God!
When you see that X-wing, and I turn to my wife and I'm like, "Oh God, it's gonna be Luke." And what was so go ahead, Shane. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, no, go ahead, because I have a whole theory that I wanted to see happen, but it's fine the way it worked.
What was thrilling for me in that sequence, and the whole technology with the de-aging and all that kind of stuff, we've read about in books and comics Luke Skywalker in his prime. We've never seen it right, in television or film. We finally saw it. And what was wonderful was you always assumed that Luke in his prime was as powerful or more powerful than any Jedi that ever lived. And you saw that. And you basically saw, I forgot who told me this, but I think they're totally right, how they kind of, I think the way Anakin was going through people he was fighting, and maybe in one of the prequels, and now they have Luke kind of doing the same thing and just showing the sheer breadth of his power as he is the Jedi Master now at this point. And I was freaking 12 years old again. Like it was absolutely thrilling scene. And also all the other characters, their body language, their faces, they're all thinking like, oh God, he's a Jedi, and like we can do nothing here. We're just gonna kind of stand here and watch this basically, because this is a whole nother level now that we really can't even touch. And it was magnificent.
And some of what I've enjoyed about both of these seasons is we know what the Jedi are because we followed Star Wars Empire and Jedi movies.
Right.
We've read books, we've read comics. It all centered around
most people in that universe. Yeah.
Yeah. It's centered around Luke and Yoda and Vader and their powers. You got a real sense that the general populace of the Star Wars universe doesn't know that. They're myths, wizards. Did they exist? They really didn't exist. Some of them say they existed. It's a lot more ambiguous than what I thought would be for everybody else in the universe. So I enjoyed the journey of watching Din Djarin learn about the Jedi. Like, what do you like when Bo-Katan says to him, what do you know about the Jedi? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. He just quested to get this child to its own kind. And at first, last season, I always assumed it was his same race, not his same people, not his same powered Jedi people. I thought they were just looking for where he originated. So I did like this journey that we went on around that. I loved that we brought in so many characters from other parts of Star Wars lore now. Clone Wars and Rebels with Bo-Katan, Clone Wars and Rebels again with Ahsoka Tano. Something that when Ahsoka first appeared in Clone Wars, I was like, I don't know. By the end of Clone Wars and then this newest season that came out this year, fantastic. Absolutely loved what they did with her. Spoilers in Rebels. I'm so thrilled that they brought some of these people into real life. To have Katie Sackhoff, who voiced Bo-Katan, act out and portray Bo-Katan in the show, I just loved. I think that there's a lot of care and thoughtfulness to this show from people who absolutely love Star Wars. It's just phenomenal.
Another great touch, and I thought it was a nice nod to continuity, is they made sure Boba Fett was not on the ship when Luke arrived, because if he had been there, that would have been a problem.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting little, like, they had him, he was doing a diversion, so he served his purpose in their mission. But I after the thought, I'm like, maybe they also didn't want him on the ship, because if Luke had seen Boba Fett, there probably would have been a melee.
But even so, Din Djarin looks pretty close that Luke would know what he's looking at. He's looking at a bounty hunter, and yet this bounty hunter has protected a child with the Force that reached out to him. So I don't know if they had Boba Fett on there, if it would have been quite the melee we initially think it would have been, because while we always viewed Boba Fett as the villain bounty hunter that the Empire uses, he really is what they've portrayed in Attack of the Clones with Jango Fett. He really is just a guy trying to make his way in the universe.
Yeah.
And in this series in particular, the second season, we found Boba Fett to be much more honorable, I think, than what we thought he would have been.
Well, there was the debt because he got his armor back.
Yes. So. And he proved that it was his armor, and he proved that his father was a foundling, and that meant something to Din Djarin versus us just knowing Boba Fett as a bounty hunter. I do think that there's a certain level of Boba Fett's professionalism and integrity and honor that goes along with what he's doing, and we saw that in this. Now, again, that may not have always been the way it was written back in the day, but that's certainly what we've come to know through Clone Wars, Rebels, and now this. It just enhances all of that part of the universe that much more.
And let's see what they're going to do with him going forward too, with that last scene.
I just really appreciate that this series, finally ties everything together. All this stuff that had previously been, quote unquote side entertainment, whether it be the animated series or whether it be, books in the lore or things like that, really finally got their time in the sun for it to be live action. Because yes, animated series are great, and these are all in canon and everything, but people could easily say, well, that's just the animated stuff. I mean, it doesn't really matter in the end. But now to see Ahsoka, in live action, to see Boba Fett back, because that's something that happened in the animated series to begin with.
Sure.
Him coming back, and to see a lot of these other characters in the limelight just ties the whole universe together in such a wonderful bow. And bringing Luke back, because this was a pretty much a Jedi-free show until Ahsoka Tano shows up, and then immediately afterwards, I'm like, oh God, this is only 10 years after Jedi. Like they could do this if they wanted to. And when just like you, Chris, when that TIE fighter landed, I'm like, oh God, they're doing this. Oh God, they're doing this. And then
I thought it was 5 years after Jedi. I thought it was much closer time. To the end of Jedi.
I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure they said it was 10 years.
Now, you have something like the mention of Grand Admiral Thrawn, but you don't get a resolution to that yet.
Yeah.
I hope that's something we get in Ahsoka's show.
I'm sure we will. Yeah.
I also, given how the show ended, I know, and I shouldn't say no, I understand why they went with Luke.
Yeah.
It's more he's more recognizable to the masses. It's more important to show him and his power and where he's grown to at this point.
Mhm.
I was really hoping it was going to be Ezra that showed up, so
Mm.
that because we know Grand Admiral Thrawn's out there, something has to have happened with Ezra based on what happens in Rebels.
Right.
Again, that's something that now that the show's ended the way it did, I hope that's something we get in Ahsoka's show.
Yeah. The only thing that didn't quite work for me 100% is the same thing that didn't work for me 100% in Rogue One, and I love Rogue One, and that's the facial capture. It was good, and it was better than the facial capture they did for Leia, and definitely better than what they did for the God, I'm blanking on his name now, but the actor
Grand
who
Moff
died.
Tarkin.
Thank you,
Tarkin.
Tarkin.
Yeah.
But the next day, or like 2 days later, there were YouTube videos out utilizing deep fake technology that
Yeah.
looked more realistic than
Yeah.
what we got. And I know how much effort it takes to do CGI, and I'm in no way,
Oh, no.
knocking that. It's just that I feel like it might be time for these guys to embrace the deep fake technology for what it is and utilize that for scenes like this.
The other thing I was kind of hoping for, because at my first watch of it, and watching this Jedi go through everybody with a green lightsaber, which again, Ezra had a green lightsaber at one point too. I thought, oh, well, maybe it's Ezra, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. When I rewatched it, I realized you could see Luke's belt, you could see his gloved hand, you could see his ungloved. I got it because I was so excited the first time, I didn't pay attention to all those details. That being said, when he went to take off his hood, I really thought it was going to be Sebastian Stan playing Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, and there was a time when I would have been okay with that, just because of the likeness, and I've seen the comparisons online of how
Yep.
much they look, but it would have thrown me. It honestly would have thrown me to see someone else play Luke, especially after already using CGI to put in Leia and that sort of stuff. Like, we've gone that route. I understand Solo was a young enough portrayal that's why he looks so different and was played by a different actor, but I don't think we have to yet. I think that now the technology is there as well as it is, you can very easily still have Hamill, voice the character,
Oh, absolutely.
but just overlay the face and just be just that cooler there. But I marked out with R2. Like, the minute
Oh,
that
yeah.
R2 came out, I was like, all right, okay, we're there. I'm home. Like, that's it.
I also love the idea that Ahsoka was able to communicate with the child, which is what, Grogu now? I say
Grogu, yes.
Grogu.
Yeah.
My kids corrected me. So Grogu, I like that. I like that we also found out that he was on Coruscant in the temple being trained during all the times we've seen these prequel movies. And then when R2 comes out from behind Luke and gets all excited, to me that tells me that R2 knows who this kid is, that he's seen them, that they've interacted with Anakin's involvement in the Jedi Temple before everything went crazy.
Yeah.
And I hope that if they revisit this and they do show Luke again with what's going on with Grogu, I really hope we get a little backstory about R2. Some things I've read even say R2 might have helped hide him, which would be great at first, and see what happens from there. But yeah, I was very excited for this show.
Shane, I'm worried. They better not do what I really hope they do not, which is, again, we know what happens to that Jedi temple.
Well,
we know what happens to that Jedi training facility if they break all our hearts and Grogu gets killed by Ben Kenobi.
But now I'm thinking that's years away.
Yeah, sorry, Ben Skywalker, that is, not Ben Kenobi, but yes.
Yeah.
That's that would break everybody's hearts. So
I can't see them going that way with this. I mean, it's possible. Because
really
the only way to make something that dramatic is to make it that almost nobody's safe.
Right. And what do we think of the in-between season now that's going to be with with our favorite bounty hunter and his story.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, that it's not going to undercut Mandalorian, because I thought at first that, oh no, this means that Mandalorian season 3 is going to be entirely not our guy. But
Right. That's what I thought too at first. I thought that they were going to shift, and the idea of the Mandalorian is just whoever they're following in the armor, whatever specific armor that is. But no, this is its own show.
When are they going to do this Boba Fett series, Ian?
Boba Fett series they're working on now,
and it comes out next year this time.
Yes, okay. Which means that Mandalorian season 3 will be whenever they're done filming Boba Fett.
And you have to think, you have Obi-Wan Kenobi out, you have the clone troopers, I forget what they're called, from season 7 of Clone Wars. They have a show coming, an animated one. You have Ahsoka's show, you have Boba Fett show, you have season 3 of Mandalorian, you have Republic Troopers or something. Like there's all this stuff, and it all kind of takes place at the same time.
Yeah.
Now, all centered around the things that started in the Mandalorian. Which
is great, because then people who are just getting into this now, they can use the Mandalorian as like their preaching all these other stories that them kind of bring into it. So that's a wonderful idea.
And think about that. The Mandalorian's only 8 episodes long. It is just a long movie. I know it's broken up episodically for our purposes and Disney Plus and all that, but it really is no different than a 3.5 hour movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we know that because there were episodes that were literally 35 minutes long.
Yeah. So it makes sense that really all you're doing is watching a broken up movie done well.
Mm-hmm.
I love the memes going around, and I appreciate the chapter 7, 8, and 9 in some ways. There's things I don't like about them, but I still rewatch them. I still enjoy them enough. I don't think they're perfect by any stretch of the imagination, and there's things I would have done completely differently in a lot of ways. But I like those, but I like the memes where it's J.J. Abrams saying, well, we can't do this and appease everybody, blah, blah, blah. And then you have a picture of Jon Favreau going, hold my beer. Because he's done everything that nobody thought they could do with 7, 8, 9 in some ways. At least that's the things that you read and hear about over the last few years. I love that they have Dave Filoni involved.
Yeah.
Just the fact that he's able to bring things he's done in Clone Wars and Rebels to fruition in The Mandalorian is priceless.
Well, I'll tell you what, Shane. I think one of the reasons why they were able to do what they were able to do with Mandalorian is because there was less pressure. Is that even though TV is important and Disney Plus is important, there was a different level of we need this to succeed than there were with the trilogy, because frankly, if that had failed completely, if episode 7 had failed completely, then this would have been dead. You can't kill Star Wars, and there were way more hands in the pot on that than there are with the Mandalorian show.
Sure,
which really was just allowed to do its own thing because it's TV. There's just stakes no matter what.
And I have to say, if you have not, first season and the beginning now, second season, if you have not watched the behind the scenes show that they've created for this, it is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I love behind the scenes things and extras you used to get on DVDs. What they do in, what do they call it? It's not the hub. That's always what I want to say, and it's wrong. It's whatever their soundstage is, where they have these. This 360 degree LCD screen that they've only gone on location once during this season of Mandalorian. Everything else has been, for the most part, on a backlot or in this soundstage. It's absolutely phenomenal what they've done. And watching the first season of The Mandalorian, thinking they're going on location here in Vegas or here or there, wherever they're doing it, and then to learn that they were never anywhere except on the soundstage or in this room, it's phenomenal to watch what they can do. And it's very interesting. Jon Favreau makes a comment how none of it's proprietary. It's all just technology that they've worked with it since he did Lion King, and then when he did whatever came next, and then now with The Mandalorian, they've perfected it, that it is just a fantastic technology to watch. It's a very interesting show, and You get to hear the directors, the actors, the special effects people, the costume people. You get to hear all this stuff from all these people. And you do that when they have special features on DVDs and on Apple movies, whatever extras you can get. This just seems better. I don't know if part of that's because it's about Star Wars, but less about Star Wars, more about how they're able to create this universe now. And it's fantastic.
Shane, you've also made, I think, an important point we've talked about over the years with different properties, that when a creator is allowed to follow their vision, and when they have the capability of someone like a Jon Favreau, you get a better product, because you don't have a gazillion different hands and corporate oversight and all that. I mean, that's always going to be there, but it comes through in the finished product. I mean, for me, these 2 seasons of the show is the most exciting Star Wars I think that's ever been produced. And you feel the love that the people involved have for the property and the concepts and the characters, and it's there. And then the fans just appreciate it all the more. And if they carry that carries onto the new shows they're going to be doing, you know, and also Mandalorian, the way it ended, like, he's in deep crap because he's got this sword, and you know they want to get their hands on it. So I'm okay with that.
I have a problem with that. That's the only problem I have with this entire season, really, that I think they got wrong, in my opinion. Okay, first, the soundstage is called the Volume. It just hit me. They call it the Volume, wherever they film this inside this thing. My problem with the Darksaber, if you watch Rebels, which again is canon.
They still have to finish, but go ahead. You can spoil. It's okay. It's fine. I have no excuse.
There's a part where Sabine obtains the Darksaber, and I don't want to tell you how, because that's exciting unto itself.
Okay.
She hands it to Bo-Katan, and just gives it to her because she feels Bo-Katan's the worthy one to do it. There's no fight. There's no code. There's, here it is. You're going to be a better leader than I am. Take it. And she does.
You're saying there's a continuity issue here then?
Yes, a huge one.
Yeah.
I don't mind the fact that Moff Gideon might think he knows something, but I thought it was out of character for Bo-Katan to agree with him. Even if she agreed with him at first, to say, no, it's okay, we can talk about that later or something. There's just some hole there that I want filled based on what I know that's happened before and what's happening now.
All right. Well, we'll see how they handle that.
Yeah. I mean, that hole may have very well been on Rebels' end, not Mandalorian's end. You know. I mean,
and it could be, but part of my problem is that Dave Filoni started with Rebels and wrote it into there. So how did it get changed for this? Like, there's an answer there that I'm excited to find out what it is.
And the other thing that I'm wondering is that, I mean, maybe it is possible that could have also just been a Disney standards and practices thing for animation, for all we know.
Could be.
You know, because I mean, like, I know that they're given a lot more freedom than they used to on cable channels and what have you. But maybe that's just like a level of fight that they weren't allowed to go into.
Yeah.
Because of the Disney XD show. I mean, who the heck knows?
Yeah. But no matter what, it's going to be an answer that makes sense. I have no doubt in that. Yeah. Just like I can't wait to see where we go with Grand Admiral Thrawn and what happens with Ahsoka. And there's just so much coming that looks good. And I know Deemer said it on Facebook or something. This is the Star Wars we've been waiting for years.
Yeah.
And I truly think that. I truly feel that.
Absolutely. And for that matter, if the Marvel Disney Plus stuff is anywhere near as good as this is, like cinematically, then we're good. Period. Like, I have a 3-year thing with Disney Plus, like, because I got that deal when it first was available.
I did too.
They keep this up, I am subscribing to Disney Plus no matter what, because they have kept me interested and kept the ball rolling, and that's it.
And here's something else it gave me, which I've missed the last year or so, and I've seen it online from other YouTube channels, other shows, other families. My boys came to me when Ben came home from his first semester at college and said, "It's Friday. Can we sit down and watch The Mandalorian together?" And for the last half of the season, all we did was wait until after dinner and everything's cleaned up, and we sat down together, Ben, Matt, and I, and we watched The Mandalorian because they wanted to watch it with me and talk about it and get excited about it. And I loved every minute of it. And it's something that doesn't happen as it should, because kids grow up, they get involved in their own things. But it was nice to have that back for a few weeks.
Yep.
And I think on that note, there's no better way to punctuate than when Shane has his father's son moment. We should bring Kilroy back into this, though. He's been there patient for a while.
Yeah, I keep thinking, deep in the heart of Texas.
It's a wildly gestate in order to get Murd back in. So that's the way.
Well, part of that's my problem with
or make your body work harder.
Animated.
Different things. It's to change the tempo and.
What is playing in the background there?
So if you're doing push-ups or if you're doing lunges or whatever.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was something that was apparently playing as an audio ad on one of the other windows.
Harry. Oh my God.
I came back and I brought Lunges Lady along with me.
Real quick before we get to our final thoughts on everything, the most recent episode of Discovery, I won't spoil it, but all I'll say is they found a way to do a holodeck episode in Discovery, and I will leave it at that, because they get to do some really, really fun visual things with a bunch of the characters, including Doug Jones, that made me very, very happy in that episode, and we get some answers. So it's shaping up to be an interesting end of the season there.
Yeah, this season's been really good. The last 3 episodes to me have been spectacular.
Not as sold on that 2-parter as you were, Shane.
Oh, I enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with it.
To me, it could have easily been a 1-parter, and they could have cut it down.
Oh, it could have been. It absolutely could have been. But anytime I get to visit that part of the world, I'll take it.
100%. Yep. All right, gents, we got anything else we wanted to bring up before we wrap this baby to a close?
No, I'm good.
All right. Sounds good to me. I'll just once again bring up a thank you to all of you fine folks who are sponsoring the show over at patreon.com/comicgeekspeak. You guys keep it going, and we will keep it going, and there will be mutual going for all of us.
Yes, thank you very much.
Holding up our end of the bargain, never you fear.
100%. And for that matter, have a happy and a healthy new year. And here's to 2021 sucking that much less.
Yeah.
All right, Shane, before you do your thing, let me just make sure I have the end logo ready to go for those on the video side. Let me share my screen appropriately. And we are good on that. And we are ready to go.
Okay. Visit us at comicgeekspeak.com to send us an email. The address is comicgeekspeak@gmail.com. To leave a voicemail, the number is 267-702-6642. Stop by thecomicforums.vanillacommunity.com, which I know is going to change, I think, at some point soon. And let us know what you think about Doomsday Clock, The Mandalorian, Wonder Woman, Soul, and any comics you might have read getting ready for the new year. Follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. And again, thanks to everyone who contributes to the episode. Keep sending in the Muddle the Murds. We could not do it without you. And as always, we are uniting the world's mightiest heroes, listener at a time.
Such a natural lead out.